Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking Energy Performance Certificate C Compliance for UK Landlords, Hidden Costs, Common Mistakes, and Smart Sequencing 2026 today, and tying it back to the wider Cost Saver ecosystem, including tools like Me's Landlord Compliance Planner, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Welcome back, everyone. So today we are getting into something that I know has been rattling around in a lot of UK landlords' heads, the whole Energy Performance Certificate C compliance situation. Assad, you and I were talking about this before we hit record, and it feels like whiplash, honestly. We were hearing Energy Performance Certificate C by 2028 constantly, and then
Gone. Yeah. September 2023, the mandatory deadline was just scrapped. And look, what happened next was totally predictable. A lot of landlords quietly canceled their planned insulation works, just shelved the whole thing.
which felt like a relief at the time, I'm sure.
Oh, completely. But it was a mistake for many of them, because the political deadline went away, right? But lenders, tenants, your future buyer, they didn't get the memo. Energy costs haven't fallen back to 2019 levels. The direction of travel is unchanged. So whether you've got a single buy-to-let or a portfolio of 15, the smart move now is strategic planning, not panic, and definitely not procrastination.
Okay, so before we get into all the mistakes and the hidden costs and the good stuff, can we just level set? Because I think half the confusion is people not knowing what the actual law says right now.
Yes, and honestly, that's where half the bad decisions come from. So, the headline change in September 2023 was that the proposed regulation requiring private rentals to hit Energy Performance Certificate C by 2028 for existing tenancies and 2025 for new tenancies was dropped. That's what changed.
Right. What did not change is the existing law. The minimum energy efficiency standards, MEES, still require a minimum energy performance certificate rating of E for any property you let. Letting a property at F or G without a registered exemption is illegal, and the penalties are up to $30,000 per property.
Wait, £30,000 per property?
Per property. So if you, I don't know, bought a Victorian terrace at auction last year with a G rating, you've got a problem today, regardless of any 2028 talk.
That's a lot more urgent than people probably realize.
It is. And here's the other thing people forget. Those registered exemptions on the PRS exemptions register, they only last 5 years. A lot of landlords registered them in 2019, 2020, and just forgot. You really need to check your dates before a tenant or a local authority does it for you.
I hadn't thought about that expiry piece. Okay, and you mentioned lenders earlier. Are they actually baking energy performance certificate ratings into mortgage decisions already?
Oh, totally. Several major buy-to-let lenders are doing it. Either preferential rates for compliant properties or outright lending caveats on lower-rated stock. I spoke to a landlord in Leeds. She saw her remortgage rate jump 0.4% on a D-rated terrace. That cost her $960 a year extra on a $240,000 loan, just because the new lender wouldn't match the old rate without a C rating.
Oh, wow. So even without a legal deadline, your remortgage can just quietly get more expensive.
Exactly, and that's money out of your yield every single year. It's not a one-off hit.
Right. Okay. With all that as background, let's get into the mistakes, because I know you see the same ones over and over. What's the big one?
The big one is what we've already touched on, treating deadlines scrapped as problem solved. The Climate Change Committee, lender lobby groups, tenant advocacy bodies, they're all pushing in the same direction. A future government, possibly as soon as the next term, is widely expected to reintroduce a mandatory standard. And if you wait until that's announced,
You're competing with everyone else.
exactly. That's when prices spike, lead times stretch to 9 months, shoddy work flourishes. The landlords who upgraded in 2022 and 2023 paid sensible market rates. Anyone scrambling in 2027 will not. And actually, the average landlord who delays is on track to pay $4,000 to $6,000 more in 2027 than they would have in 2026.
God, that's a real number. Okay, what's mistake number 2?
Trusting the Energy Performance Certificate Recommendations report at face value. And this one, honestly, this drives me a bit mad. Those recommendations are produced by software, not by a human surveyor walking your property with their brain switched on. They suggest things that are technically valid but commercially silly, like internal wall insulation on a flat that would lose 6 inches of floor space, or solar panels on a north-facing roof.
Solar panels on a north-facing roof. Yeah.
Right? And the cost estimates on those reports are frequently years out of date. I've seen reports suggesting a 4,000-pound boiler upgrade when the actual quote came in at $6,800. So use the Energy Performance Certificate as a starting point? Absolutely. But get a proper retrofit assessment for anything substantial.
So what should people actually do instead, like practically?
So my tip is ask 3 installers for quotes and ask each one which measure delivers the biggest energy performance certificate point uplift per pound spent. The answers will surprise you. Loft top-ups and low-energy lighting often outperform glamorous heat pump installs on that points per pound metric.
Oh, I would not have guessed that. Okay. So that naturally leads into mistake number 3, I'm guessing.
Yeah, doing the cheap stuff first without modeling. So every landlord knows loft insulation and LED bulbs are cheap. They do them, claim the easy points, and then discover the property is still rated D because the real problem is the uninsulated solid walls or the ancient boiler. I worked with a landlord from Manchester, John, last spring. He spent £900 on loft top-ups and LEDs across 3 properties, gained 4 energy performance certificate points each, and was disappointed to find all 3 still sat at D.
Oh no, that's so frustrating. He thought he was being sensible.
He did. But a proper modeling exercise up front would have told him to do cavity fill first instead, for a cost of $1,200 across the 3. So he'd spent $800, gained 4 points, and the expensive work was still ahead of him. Does that make sense? Like, the order matters as much as the measures themselves.
Yeah, completely. It's not just what you do, it's the sequence. And I'm guessing there's a tenant angle here too?
That's mistake number 4, ignoring the tenant impact. External wall insulation can take 3 weeks. A heat pump install means several days without heating or hot water. You spring that on a tenant with no consultation, expect to lose them. And a void of, say, 6 weeks at $1,400 a month, that wipes out a chunk of your upgrade savings just like that.
So it becomes a false economy. You save on the install, but you're hemorrhaging rent.
Exactly. Plan works around tenancy changeovers wherever possible. If that's not realistic, offer a rent reduction during disruption or arrange temporary accommodation for the worst days. It costs less than a void. Honestly, a bit of communication goes such a long way.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the hidden costs, because I feel like this is where people really get caught out. You budget for the work and then...
And then the project ends up 30% more expensive than you budgeted. Yeah. So installers and assessors quote the headline price, right? They rarely mention the surrounding costs. First big one, scaffolding. A 3-story terrace can run $1,500 to £3,000 just for the metalwork.
Just the scaffolding, before anyone's even done anything?
Before anyone's picked up a drill. Then asbestos surveys for anything pre-2000, that's £300 to £600. Building control fees. Most insulation, heating, and window works are notifiable. Expect £200 to £500, depending on the council. Electrical upgrades if you're putting in a heat pump, which might need a consumer unit upgrade or a DNO application that can take weeks. What else? Making good? Internal wall insulation means replastering, reskirting, redecorating. A small bedroom can add 800 pounds to the bill.
And I suppose there's the lost rent, too, even with a planned void.
Yeah, even a planned 2-week void at average UK rents is 600 to 900 pounds, plus your new energy performance certificate, 60 to 120, and you need it lodged before you can claim compliance. And then VAT. This catches people. Many measures attract reduced or zero VAT, but only when installed by a registered scheme member. Use a cowboy and you pay the full 20%.
It's a lot of extras that you wouldn't necessarily think of.
It is, and I always say budget at least 15% contingency on top of everything. Old buildings reveal old surprises. Damp behind a chimney breast, rotten joists under a bay window, hidden lead pipes. These things turn a $12,000 project into a $15,000 project very quickly.
Yeah, the joys of property ownership. Are there longer-term hidden costs too, or is it mainly upfront?
No, there's a whole second category that only shows up later. Increased insurance premiums on heat pumps and solar systems, annual servicing contracts for heat pumps, that's $200 to $350 a year, every year. Solar inverter replacement at year 10 to 12, costing $800 to $1,500. Potential council tax band reassessment after major works, which does happen. And, this one sounds trivial, but reduced loft storage capacity after you've insulated up air? Tenants notice. Tenants complain.
I can imagine. Okay, so that's the doom and gloom portion of today's show. How do landlords actually do this well?
Right, so step one, before you call an assessor, walk every one of your properties with a notepad. Note the construction type, heating system age, window type, loft state, wall fabric. Then sort them into 3 buckets.
Go on.
Bucket 1, already at C or above. No action needed, but get a fresh energy performance certificate if yours is older than 7 years. Bucket 2, D-rated and within reach. These need a small bundle of measures. Prioritize these first because the cost-to-benefit ratio is highest. Bucket 3, E, F, or G-rated. These are your problem children. Fabric-first interventions, potentially 5 figures.
And I bet a lot of landlords have never actually laid their portfolio out side by side like that.
You'd be surprised. Or actually, you wouldn't be surprised. Most haven't. But that sorting exercise tells you where to spend money first and where you can afford to wait. Then for each property that needs work, you model the cheapest bundle of measures that get you to a C.
And the costs vary hugely depending on the property, right?
Massively. A 1930 semi with cavities might hit C for under 3,000 pounds. A solid walled mid-terrace could cost $18,000. The principle is, compare the points each measure delivers against its cost and combine measures intelligently rather than buying them piecemeal. Cavity wall insulation is low cost, high points, if you've got cavities. Solid wall insulation is high cost, but very high points. Glazing is high cost, but only modest points. It's all property specific.
What about timing? Because I imagine you can't just do everything at once.
No, and you shouldn't try. Time the works to your tenancy cycle. The cheapest void is no void, right? If you've got a tenancy ending in March 2027, that's your window for the heat pump install. Map this across your whole portfolio and you'll find natural slots opening up over the next 36 months. And actually, landlords with 3 or more properties should consider negotiating a portfolio deal with a single retrofit contractor. You'll typically save 10 to 15% on labor by committing to multiple jobs over 18 months, and you get priority scheduling.
Oh, that's actually reassuring. There are ways to bring costs down. And what about grants? Because I know there are some available.
Yeah, the Boiler Upgrade Scheme currently offers $7,500 towards an air source heat pump installation in England and Wales. Eco4 grants are available for lower-income tenants and qualifying properties. The Great British Insulation Scheme covers some insulation costs. But, and this is important, these schemes change frequently. Check eligibility the same week you commission work. The boost funding window is reviewed annually, and historically several schemes have been pulled with only a few weeks' notice.
So don't assume the grant will still be there in 6 months.
Don't assume it'll be there in 6 weeks, honestly.
Fair enough. Okay, last thing, documentation. You mentioned this before we started recording, and I want to make sure we cover it.
Yeah, this is boring, but it's so important. When you sell, your buyer solicitor will ask for evidence of every measure. Keep a property file with all EPCs, old and new, installer invoices and certificates, building control sign-offs, microgeneration certification scheme certificates for renewables, guarantees, warranties, and photos before and after each set of works.
And that actually affects the sale price?
A well-documented retrofit can add 3 to 5% to the sale price. A poorly documented one prompts a price chip from the buyer surveyor. And never let an installer fit a measure without the relevant certification scheme paperwork. PAS 2030, Microgeneration Certification Scheme, Gas Safe, NICEC. Uncertified work invalidates warranties, blocks grant payments, may breach building regs, and will get flagged by any future assessor or buyer surveyor.
Right, okay. So let me try to pull this together for everyone. The 2028 deadline being scrapped was a reprieve, not a cancellation. Lenders are already pricing energy performance certificate ratings into mortgages. Tenants care about energy costs, and a future mandatory standard is widely expected. So,
So, the play is audit your portfolio. Literally, list every property, the current energy performance certificate rating, and the date of the next tenancy break. That takes about 20 minutes. Then model the cheapest route to C for each property. Time the works to your tenancy cycle, use the grant funding while it exists, document everything, and budget properly. Include all the hidden costs and that 15% contingency.
and don't just do the cheap stuff first and hope for the best.
Please don't do that. Sequence it properly. The landlords who do this in 2026 will be sitting comfortably when the next round of regulatory noise arrives. The ones who don't will be paying premium rates to whichever installer can fit them in.
Assad, that's been really helpful. Thanks for walking us through all of that.
Anytime, Angela.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially Hidden Costs That Erode Rental Yield, Council Tax Bands Guide, and Weather-Aware Home Energy Planner.
Exactly. And reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Me's Landlord Compliance Planner right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include Domestic Private Rented Property and Boiler Upgrade Scheme, UFGIM, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try Me's Landlord Compliance Planner, then read Hidden Costs That Erode Rental Yield, and use them together to take action today.